there wasn't this little tail of extremism wagging the dog of the Republican Party as it is today. Mm-hmm. And sadly, so many of those extremists, those MAGA extremists, take their marching orders from Donald Trump, who has no credibility left by any measure. He's only in it for himself. He's now defending himself in civil actions and criminal actions. And when do they break with him? Because at some point, maybe there needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members, but something needs to happen.
And how do you do that? Because you said you have to defeat them by defeating their leader. Their leader is Donald Trump. Even you have said that you expect him to be the Republican nominee. How does this change at all?
At this point, I think, sadly, he will still likely be the nominee, and we have to defeat him. And we have to defeat those who are the election deniers, as we did in 2020 and 2022. And we have to, just be smarter about how we are trying to empower the right people inside the Republican Party. Nancy Pelosi had a majority of 5 votes when she was Speaker. Kevin McCarthy had a majority of 5 votes. Nancy Pelosi passed consequential legislation, and she clearly had members within her caucus who, ranged across a spectrum of political beliefs and ideology, and she kept everybody together, and she kept everybody focused on the future. Mm-hmm. He couldn't do that. And so he paid a price, but more importantly, the country paid a price.
All right, guys, so what you just witnessed there was Hillary Clinton still on her soapbox about MAGA Republicans. Yesterday, I did a video about how she was so upset that her boy, Kevin McCarthy, got kicked to the curb by Matt Gaetz, who is a MAGA Republican. She's upset about that. She's angry about that. Tells you everything you need to know about Kevin McCarthy and the fact that he is really establishment, even though he tries to pretend that he's not, he actually really is. She's upset. She's so upset that, again, not only did she call for backlash against Matt Gaetz for doing that, but now she's also calling for a formal deprogramming of so-called MAGA supporters, okay, or Trump supporters, okay? This woman is openly calling to have her political opponents deprogrammed or re-educated, which, again, is truly disturbing stuff, okay, that she's openly saying this out loud on mainstream liberal media. And once again, she gets no pushback for this extremist language. But best believe Hillary Clinton in the establishment, they're upset, they're pissed, again, because their boy Kevin McCarthy is gone. We know that Democrats and Republicans are in a uniparty, and the uniparty gets upset when the boat is rocked, okay, and they're especially upset because they know that the person that may replace Kevin McCarthy may not play ball with the establishment the same way that Kevin McCarthy was willing to play ball with the establishment. And the front runner to take Kevin McCarthy's place is now Jim Jordan, who is the leader of the House Judiciary Committee and has been a pain in the ass for Democrats, people like Hillary Clinton, in going after their corruption. And Trump has come out and given an endorsement to Jim Jordan for Speaker of the House. And I want to go ahead and play President Biden's and Jim Jordan himself, their reactions to this news. Take a look.
We have breaking news overnight in the race for Speaker of the House. Former President Donald Trump, who was said to be a potential candidate himself, has made an endorsement. Nicole Killian is on Capitol Hill with the whiplash of this new development. Nicole, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you, Nate. Former President Trump at one point said he would even be willing to take the speaker's job himself temporarily and visit the Hill next week. But now he is endorsing House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan. He called Jordan a star, writing that he is strong on crime, borders, our military vets, and Second Amendment. He will be a great Speaker of the House and has my complete and total endorsement. Jordan and Majority Leader Steve Scalise are vying for support to replace former Speaker Kevin McCarthy and are holding calls with various factions of the GOP conference. Trump ally Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz put forth the motion to remove McCarthy this week. Gaetz told CBS Miami reporter Jim DeFeedy he consulted with the former president before the historic ousting.
Did he sign off on that? Did he give you his blessing?
I think his exact words, Jim, were do what you have to do. And that was enough of a blessing for me.
McCarthy has said this is personal with Gates. Last night, at least one Republican lawmaker called for McCarthy to be restored as Speaker. Trump's endorsement of Jordan now puts the Ukraine funding fight front and center since Jordan opposes it, while Scalise supports it. Jerika?
I appreciate the president's endorsement. He's the leader of the party. He's going to be our presidential nominee, and I think he's going to be our next president, so I appreciate that. But we're focused also on, the key thing is our colleagues, and I'm talking with we got from Freedom Caucus to people in the middle to committee chairs to Jeff Van Drew, who was Democrat 4 years ago. We got all kinds of across-the-board support, and we're just going to keep working.
Mr. President, former President Trump endorsed Congressman Jim Jordan for House Speaker. Could you see yourself working with Congressman Jordan if he is the next Speaker? And do you have any concerns about who might fill that position?
Look, whomever the House Speaker is, I'm going to try to work with. They control half the Congress, and I'm going to try to work with them. There's some people I imagine it's going to be easier to work with than others, but whoever the Speaker is, I'll try to work with.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Now, as I've been alluding to since Kevin McCarthy got ousted, is that the way that you read this, the way that you understand about what's happening here, is that both sides are melting down, right? Again, Democrats, although they voted to remove Kevin McCarthy, they only did it because he's a snake, right? They didn't do it because he's a threat. They did it because he's a snake, right? But he was an establishment snake, okay? They still knew that he was going to play ball at the end of the day, just like he played ball with keeping the government open, already having negotiated a deal with the Democrats, something they would accept, knowing damn well he would not shut down the government if it came to it in order to get the most conservative agenda passed that he could, to make Democrats get on board with it. No, he ain't trying to do that. He ain't trying to leverage everything that he can to get the conservative agenda passed, okay? Even though the polls show that the American people support the conservative agenda, right? Again, that was my biggest problem with Kevin McCarthy, okay? He didn't have the cojones, okay? Now, we have Jim Jordan. And how do you read the reaction of Jim Jordan potentially becoming the next speaker? Well, it's pretty easy. The establishment, left and right, liberals and, Republicans, I'm not sure if you can call them conservatives, but liberals, Democrats, and Republicans, they're melting down, okay? They're having a fit, okay, over Jim Jordan possibly becoming the next Speaker of the House after the Trump endorsement. And I have two reactions here, two meltdowns. The first one from Liz Cheney, Queen Rhino herself, okay, and Sonny Hostin on The View, who goes on to basically call Jim Jordan a terrorist. Take a look.
Jim Jordan knew more about what Donald Trump had planned for January 6th than any other member of the House of Representatives. Jim Jordan was involved, was part of the conspiracy in which Donald Trump was engaged as he attempted to overturn the election. Jim Jordan, if you think about the extent to which people have now said, well, it was Speaker Pelosi's fault that Donald Trump's mob invaded the Capitol, that, the security wasn't sufficient enough. The person who knew, there were probably more than just Jim, but there was a handful of people, of which he was the leader, who knew what Donald Trump had planned. Now, somebody needs to ask Jim Jordan, why didn't you report to the Capitol Police what you knew Donald Trump had planned? You were in those meetings at the White House. And if the Republicans decide that Jim Jordan should be the Speaker of the House, there will, and by the way, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he'll lose. But if they were to decide that, there would no longer be any possible way to argue that a group of elected Republicans could be counted on to defend the Constitution.
I will just say about Jim Jordan, you know, he has been called by his own party, by John Boehner, a political terrorist. He's also been linked to the Ohio State sexual abuse scandal. I testified in front of Congress about something so simple, cameras in courtrooms. He came in late, he looked disheveled, and he immediately was screaming and yelling and terrorized me and the other experts on the panel. And describing him as a terrorist is exactly that. He's a chaos agent, and it came out of nowhere, and he had no command of the subject that we were talking about, which made it even scarier. So to have him, the thought of him being the Speaker of the House, I think leads to more chaos for
But his role model is Donald Trump, who has no command of the language either.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? Tells you everything you need to know about whether or not Jim Jordan is the right man for the job, at least among all of the current Republicans in Congress. He might be the best pick, okay? He might not be the perfect pick, but he probably is the best pick, okay? If Sonny Hostin thinks that Jim Jordan is a terrorist and he scared her, which it sounds like he did, then he's the perfect pick, right? He's a great pick, okay? And again, if Liz Cheney is coming out here saying that he shouldn't be the person, that tells you everything you need to know. Again, just look at the reaction, guys. These people would much rather have Kevin McCarthy, who tried to frame himself as a MAGA anti-establishment Republican. He tried, right? They would much rather have him, okay? They're pissed. They're actually pissed that Kevin McCarthy is not Speaker anymore. And now they realize that, oh, Jim Jordan might actually become Speaker. They're even more pissed. Now they're having a full-blown meltdown. They're calling the man a terrorist, okay? They're calling him a terrorist. They're trying to say that, well, he was a part of what happened on January 6th. Again, perfect guy for the job if this is the reaction. Again, I want you guys to notice the difference. Okay, it's funny. It's very funny because you heard Hillary Clinton talk about Nancy Pelosi, and when Nancy Pelosi had a slim majority in the House of Representatives, how the extremists in the Democrat Party, and she's talking about the progressives, that's what she was talking about. Well, they didn't agree with her, but they didn't, you know, they didn't go out of their way to try to remove, you know, Nancy Pelosi or whatever. And I'm like, well, yeah, they did it because they're the establishment, right? AOC, the squad, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Jamal, all those people who ran up into Congress acting like they were freedom fighters, right? They were actually really going to make change. They did not have the cojones that Matt Gaetz had to stand up to the Democrat establishment. They actually just became the establishment, right? That's exactly what happened, okay? And that's why a lot of these same people, AOC, the squad, they're getting a lot of backlash from progressives now because progressives are saying, oh, wait, Matt Gaetz actually showed that you can stand up to the establishment, that you do have power. You people just are weak, right? You're weak.
You got to make them uncomfortable. She's pretending to be part of a movement when she's really running cover for Nancy Pelosi. Did you think anybody voted for you so you could vote Nancy Pelosi without getting them anything? This is Medicare for all. People's actual lives depend on us doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it's your chance to actually use your leverage. Will you?
Take risks.
Or will you be a party fucking climber?
Start bringing the ruckus on the Democratic Party.
Oh, the orderly clockwork machine ruckus.
So that was just what we saw Matt Gaetz do. Matt Gaetz is bringing real reform to the House of Representatives. Matt Gaetz is showing that they actually did have that power. Matt Gaetz is showing that we were right about forced to vote, and that they voted for Nancy Pelosi and extracted absolutely nothing for their vote. Matt Gaetz has been slapping McCarthy's head around since before he became Speaker.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? They're now laughing at AOC, okay? The progressives are laughing at AOC, pretending to be a fighter, okay? But Matt Gaetz showed who's actually a fighter, who's actually establishment, who's not establishment. Again, just pay attention to how these people react, okay? The fact that these people are having an existential crisis over Jim Jordan possibly becoming Speaker, and they're now defending Kevin McCarthy. Democrats are defending Kevin McCarthy after voting to oust him, by the way, right? They vote to oust Kevin McCarthy, and then they turn around and they want to boo-hoo whine and cry about him being ousted. Yeah, they're in panic mode because they got exactly what they wanted, right? They wanted McCarthy out because he's a snake. And then they're about to get somebody that probably is going to be more difficult to deal with in Jim Jordan. Now, again, do I know, if it's going to be that much different under Jim Jordan than Kevin McCarthy? I really don't know. I hope so. However, I got to be realistic about it. I'm not sure if it's going to be all that much different. I think that the Ukraine funding is going to be the biggest thing, okay? Whether or not Jim Jordan, the speaker, would fold, or whether or not he even is selected speaker if he's not willing to fund Ukraine. Because, a lot of these Republicans do want to keep funding the war in Ukraine. In fact, most of them want to. So, who knows? I mean, they might not select him. They might not select Jim Jordan for that reason. Okay, so I honestly, I don't know. I think that it's going to be a fight. I really do. Okay, I think it's going to come down to Ukraine, right? In regards to who wins the speakership. Does the Republican Party want to be the old neocon George Bush Republican Party, or do they want to be the new populist Trump MAGA Republican Party? Honestly, this new speaker election is going to decide that, right? You're going to figure that out in this new speaker election. Regardless, though, I think, at least symbolically, I think we should understand that Jim Jordan was an original founding member of the House Freedom Caucus and, the Tea Party movement or whatever. And Republicans used to fight the Tea Party movement, right? They was fighting the Tea Party movement. Now, this movement has gone from being fought against by the Republican establishment to actually potentially leading the House, being in charge of the House, which, again, is an amazing feat in and of itself that I think regardless of what happens under Jim Jordan, I believe that he's going to try his best, right? But we still have the prospect of the fact that, Republicans only have the House, Democrats have the Senate and the presidency, even though I do think that there's some things they can still do, even with that, considering how the polls are in the Republicans' favor, and I hope that Jim Jordan takes advantage of it. Regardless, I think that if Jim Jordan does become Speaker of the House, it does show people that you do have power, right? And we need to make sure that we don't give up that power, like the establishment is trying to give, trying to get rid of the motion to vacate. Okay, the same way they went out of their way to try to get rid of the power of the vice president to send the election back to the states, right? After they gaslighted American citizens and claimed that the vice president didn't have that power, even though he did. Okay, they want to change it now. Okay, yeah, they're gonna try to change the motion to vacate as well too. They do whatever they can do to try to take away the people's power. And again, we have to continue to fight, okay? And we have to continue to make progress because we are making a difference, guys. I mean, and I think what you saw happen to Kevin McCarthy is an example of the fact that the people and the people's voice do matter. Now, again, the politicians, most of the time, they don't listen. But when they don't listen, there are consequences for not listening. And again, we have to make sure that we continue to hold that leverage. Even if it is Jim Jordan, regardless of who it is, we have to make sure that the people's voice is heard and that the politicians understand that there are consequences and they will be held accountable for not adhering to the will of the people. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.